Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Wow, do we have a lot of juicy stuff to dive into today. After a difficult season for OpTic Texas, Rambo's come out and explained in great length exactly what went wrong for the team this year, but also saying Drazah's take on them being overrated was Braindead, and saying it might not be so simple with just re-signing the same team going into next season. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you are new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Really up to the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. So much going on in the Rostermania world right now. To start with this from Ultra, we looked at yesterday the fact that Toronto practically confirmed they are making changes. We theorized what changes they could potentially be. They wish a happy birthday here to CleanX. We would imagine they would keep CleanX. You don't really want to let go of your fast, aggressive SMG player because that is a very difficult role to replace. And on his day, CleanX is certainly one of the best in that role in the entire game and has unbelievable levels of talent. Now, yes, the SMG duo, CleanX even individually, wasn't that great this season, but I do think it still makes sense to build around him going into next year if you are going to pick one or two of that team of four to keep going with. Maybe they pick three, maybe they pick all four, but that seems incredibly doubtful based on what we've seen over the last 24 hours. CleanX tweets this outright 22 years old. Today's happy birthday to CleanX for yesterday, but a load of replies here actually from other pro players. You know, you've got Zero, Drazah, aBeZy, and the like. Now, none of his teammates actually were here in the replies, which I thought was rather interesting. The only teammate that responded to CleanX was his, well, it was Insight, right? And these guys go way back to even the Singularity days back in Black Ops 4. You guys might well remember when CleanX got his breakout event at the World Championship in 2019, where he basically turned on Aches, right? And that was eventually the one kill that made his entire career happen. Now, I mean, look, Insight tweets this out. Happy birthday to the day one CleanX. So these guys go a long way back. These guys have been an AR SMG duo for quite some time. So if there was two guys you're going to build around on the team, it might make sense to build around these two. CleanX says, thank you, duo. Hoping for many more of these picks in the future. So kind of doesn't want to say too much here, but obviously the players probably already have some idea as to what's going to happen in Rostermania, because as I've said, in just a couple of days' time, this Sunday on the 14th, that's when the teams have to decide whether they want to keep their players or they don't, if they have team options to keep them into next season. So these guys probably already know maybe who's going to go, who's going to stay, and just the idea that CleanX is saying, hoping for many more of these picks, us teaming together in the future, is kind of interesting as well. So we'll see how that one goes. And also this from kind of Grazen, head guy over there, a great set of end of season meetings with the players today, whatever the future holds. This is one hell of a squad. I love these guys. Hashtag Rostermania, right? So he's not really like holding any punches here on the fact that this team is going to change, saying they've held meetings with the players, either to, tell them they're going to be let go today, potentially, or say they're going to get kept. So just this coinciding with the fact that Insight and CleanX are tweeting each other, and nothing from Cammy or Bance in reply to that, or really anything on the timeline the last 24 hours, probably makes you think that that's the direction they might go. Who they're going to replace those players with, Bance and Cammy, if those are the two guys to make way, that of course is a big question. It's obviously a difficult couple of roles to improve on and to upgrade. This is an interesting thing to mention as well here from Clayster. Of course, look, Clay loves a good bit of bait on Twitter during the Rostermania period, but he says strong picks are the best picks, and here we go, Clay and Attach, the old-time FaZe duo, even Denial duo, when they won the World Championship together back in 2015. Here they are after the event this past weekend. So look, could this duo potentially team up? We actually saw Attach say recently, despite that it almost seemed at times this year he was the main AR for Minnesota, he reckons that he would prefer to run the flex. That's his kind of preferred role. So Clay and Attach as a duo, no longer AR SMG, now AR flex, could be a combination some teams might be interested in. Now, where could Clayster potentially go? Of course, one option for Attach might be Los Angeles Guerrillas. That seems like an attractive team for him to go to, back to LA. He's kind of, where he's from in California, and then obviously like moving out of Minnesota, he might quite like that option and probably get out of that team environment, right, and get a bit of a fresh start. Priester might be looking for something similar. Now, could Clay go along with Attach to a Los Angeles Guerrillas? Seems somewhat unlikely just because Slasher is there, and I'd be somewhat surprised if they decided not to build around Slasher, but still, maybe that's an option as well. So we'll see how this goes, but this is a potential duo that could reform. I'd quite like to see it. Not exactly sure what team makes sense for it though, but let's talk about the OpTic situation. So on the whole, they had not a terrible season. They won the first event, but I'm sure a lot of OpTic fans would have been hoping after that first event victory for a lot more this year. Second in the standings on the whole, had the best map win percentage. I think they're the best search and destroy record over the course of the season as well. There were a lot of positives to take away with this team. But ever since the aBeZy situation, right, to maybe the misdiagnosis by the doctor that meant that the team couldn't really scrim too long, they brought ProLoot in, they wanted to get aBeZy back, right, and it is a question that has been raised actually, given the fact that aBeZy was out of the team, and a lot of the blame really for the way their season went with the top 6s, the top 4s at the end of the year, kind of that blame falls on the the aBeZy situation, right? Not on aBeZy as a person, of course, but more on the situation and how it derailed their year. Is there an argument to say that after aBeZy was out, they should have just tried to find a full-time replacement for aBeZy, and then they could have at least practiced with that entire team for the next several months, and maybe that would have resolved some of the issues that occurred when aBeZy did return? I don't think that would have been the wisest plan, really. I think it could have worked with aBeZy coming back, but things obviously didn't work out as planned. But and still, who do you even get in that situation to replace aBeZy? People talked about trying to, snag a Tatch off Minnesota, but I doubt that would have been possible regardless. But just something I suppose to think about. Now, Rambo went live and talked for quite some time in length really about the state of the OpTic team, the way things went in this past season, why it didn't work out so well for them, and also what's next for this team going into 2023. Because I think a lot of people expect it to be really easy. Okay, re-sign the players, go again for next year, run it back without the kind of aBeZy situation hopefully occurring again. But it might not actually be so clear on that front. We'll see that here in a second. Now, of course, firstly, we've got to talk about the juiciest part of this, right? The drama. Because going into the event, right, we saw this video that came out where Drazah effectively held no punches back and said OpTic are the most overrated team in the game. Of course, went on to beat them at that event pretty handily. And then, well, Rambo wasn't necessarily too happy with that statement, saying that, look, all these teams calling them overrated where they've been playing with a substitute for a couple of months of the season just don't understand. Saying it's a Braindead take, not exactly saying Drazah's name specifically, but look, Drazah was the one that said it in the first place.
Calling you overrated, dude, that's fine. He can say whatever he wants. Again, you're gonna talk about a team being overrated when they literally didn't have a full roster for two and a half months for half the year. That's just brain dead in my opinion. If you really want my opinion on it, that's brain dead.
So quite the strong words really there from Rambo, saying that, Drazah, Braindead take on that one, saying that OpTic are overrated. He did tweet this out, Drazah, just now, with a kind of laughing emoji thing right here, so maybe this is in response to what Rambo had to say, maybe not, but at least something to look at regardless. So yeah, Drazah, look, it continues, right? Drazah, honestly, that's the thing. The last couple of seasons, or since really this year, and maybe partly last year, FaZe were trying to get into this whole villain role, and it never really works for FaZe, because they're not really that kind of personas, but it makes sense they wanted to kind of get into it just because they were the team that won everything, they're the team that everyone wants to take down. It makes sense for FaZe to be the villains. Now Drazah, not only are Los Angeles Thieves having won everything, in the perfect position to take up this role, but also Drazah as a personality is just so well aligned with being the villain in the scene. So everyone's coming in right now, and it definitely creates some entertaining storylines. Now even Prolute says I got Ray Brain saying brain dead. Apparently that was maybe one of Prolute's phrases, and Ramo's responding saying, basically it's chill, it's not too much of a big deal. Now the other part of this actually is what's going to happen next season, right? So people expect, I think understandably so, this OpTic team will stay together, given the circumstances, Dashy, who you're going to replace him with, aBeZy, Shotzzy, Scump, it all makes sense kind of. We did talk about the possibility of a role change with Scump going to the flex. I think even Rambo mentioned, we'll see here in a second, that he thinks Scump could be a great flex player, but I don't know what exactly that would mean for the team if they were to do exactly that. But I'll share this clip for you guys real quick, because Rambo explains here that they've actually got a lot of things to handle this off-season, saying that he's not going to take a vacation for quite some time because they've got a fair few things to figure out over the next couple of weeks. This may be as simple as just trying to re-sign shots in aBeZy's contracts, but apparently they might be on vacation as well. So it's a bit of a dynamic situation.
In LA at a friend's house in Laguna Beach, probably a few golf trips during the off season. Bowl, I don't necessarily need to regain. It's more so my job never really stops because there's a lot of things happening in the off season we got to handle sooner rather than later. So my vacation will probably happen in a month or so.
So thanks very much to Doc V or, Doc or whatever for putting all this together, a summary of whatever Rambo had to say, and there's so much in here that we can dive into. I'm not going to talk through absolutely everything because there is a lot, but I'll pick out a few key details. Firstly, the scrim stats versus the teams they practiced against going into the World Championship. Thought it was interesting actually, this one especially versus Surge. They were 6-0 on Berlin hardpoint against Surge in their practice going into the World Championship, and of course they had a 90-point advantage on the kind of deciding map of their tournament up against Surge in that kind of losers semi-final where it was on Berlin hardpoint, right? They had a massive advantage there. That was the map that obviously they thought they were meant to win, and Surge make the comeback and win it regardless, go on a 150 to 30 point streak in the final couple of minutes of the game. So probably that feels like even more of a heartbreak to OpTic than it already did. Some other interesting numbers in here as well, but this I thought was an interesting statement. So Rambo was asked if the OpTic roster is sticking together for Modern Warfare 2. He said that the players are currently on vacation and that they are the ones who decide the rosters, so he can't comment on that. So it's definitely an interesting interesting statement to say on that one, really. Like, you'd have thought that if they were convinced that the team was going to stay together, he would just have said it, right? Like, I don't really see the reason. If they know they're sticking, why would he just, why would he not say? Now, of course, like, they don't know 100% because TJHaLy have to re-sign new contracts, and they can only re-sign new contracts after the deadline opens. So this Sunday is the 14th, the Sunday after that is the 21st, and that's the date where free agents can now re-sign deals. So they have to wait until the 21st, I believe, for OpTic, aBeZy, and TJHaLy to re-sign their contracts for next season. So they've got a couple of weeks off anyway. So, okay, I guess they can work on details. Maybe that's why Rambo's not taking a break for some time, because they need to work on details of those contracts. If that is in fact the case, they're just kind of re-signing TJHaLy and aBeZy. So not exactly sure why Rambo couldn't just go on vacation now, I suppose, and then come back in a couple of weeks and sort it out if the team is 100% confident they're going to stay together. So just interesting, right? He says the players are away, they decide the team, he can't comment. If they were 100% certain the team's staying together, not just 95% certain, then maybe he wouldn't say this, right? Like, if you ask JCap this, I'm sure JCap wouldn't be saying, like, the team decides I can't comment. He'd be saying, well, yeah, we just want jumps, we're going to stay together. So, not the same statement here from OpTic. Something to keep looking at for sure. Now, this is some of the other stuff that was mentioned here, talking about were they confident, and they said, okay, they weren't really that confident. Like, we had 2.5 months of practice behind everyone else where they were. And even saying this on aBeZy's injury, he said that for 1.5 months, they were treating aBeZy's injury as a day-to-day situation. He said that it's not probably 100% healed, actually, and he'll spend the off-season visiting doctors and getting it 100% back again for the Modern Warfare 2 season. So that's another bit of a concern, right? If aBeZy's hand is not fully healthy and he's going to have to take the off-season off to kind of chill and relax and everything, it's really not an ideal situation for OpTic and, of course, aBeZy himself especially. And he talked about a fair few things about their control, like also like what made them kind of fall off a little bit, right? Why did TJHaLy fall off, reckoning that other teams just caught up to them and overtook them, and then they were playing like very inefficient, effectively a hardpoint gameplay, and that TJHaLy was getting caught out a lot, had like a 0.68 in hardpoint at champs, wasn't ideal, of course. So they were just inefficient, he reckoned, in the respawns, and just falling short of where they needed to be if they wanted to actually be a contending and winning team. And I'll just put this stuff up on screen if you guys want to pause and read into this stuff, if there's anything that kind of stands out to you guys are feeling rather interesting. But yeah, the idea for me that, okay, the aBeZy situation derailed their season, I think that makes sense, right? It's understandable. Like, it's obviously fair enough. It definitely did have an adverse effect on their season. If that hadn't have happened, though, what would the season have looked like? I think a lot of OpTic fans are very excited about that possibility. Like, it's been a consistent trend over a few years in OpTic's history, where at the end of the season, they don't look quite as good as they did at the start. Like, they come top 4 at the ends. Okay, if aBeZy doesn't get injured, do they win champs? Do they come top 3? Like, I think they might have played better. Whether they're actually, the dominant team the entire season, I kind of doubt that's the case, just on what we've seen in the past. And I also do wonder, how would other teams have responded to a similar situation, right? Obviously, look, we never know. It's all mind games or theoretical kind of mind theorizations here as to what might have happened. But let's say FaZe, for example, with their culture and what they have going on there, let's say they lost Simp or something, or they lost Arcitys and he had to step out and they get another player, or maybe they get a Prolute in, right? Who knows? They adapt, they don't look so good. They look good initially because they're FaZe, they then maybe fall off a little bit, and then Arcitys comes back 2 months from the end of the season. Do you think FaZe, in that case, with losing Arcitys for 2 months in scrims, like, what does their season look like in that case? Do they bounce back and become a top team again? Do they struggle a little bit more? I feel like FaZe might have had a better time in that situation than OpTic have done, but of course, I suppose we'll never know, really. And he talks about the coaching staff working well, him and Sender working well together, saying that he could have been a better coach this year, Rambo, just because he was maybe pushing the team a little bit too far when the morale was down a bit, and he reckoned it actually kind of, hurt the morale of the team when Prolute was there and things just started getting worse and everything just kind of fell apart, really. So yeah, bit of a mess, to be honest, with the OpTic guys this season. But that's the thing, right? If it is really just, okay, bad luck and aBeZy stepped out or whatever, then you'd have thought that the obvious situation would be, let's just run it back with the team next year. But from what we're seeing, I'm not necessarily sure that's 100% going to be the case. Like FaZe and 100 Thieves are like 99.9% chance staying together unless something crazy happens. OpTic might be a 95%, there might be a 90%, I don't really know. But of course, Scump's away on vacation right now. The other guys seemingly are also away on vacation as well. And Rambo's like, look, I don't really know what's going on. It's up to the players whether they stay together, which makes me think it's not exactly a guarantee, but maybe they're just working on things with shots in aBeZy's contract or whatever, and there might not be too much to read into here. But I think maybe it's a story to keep your eyes peeled to over the coming days. But lots of drama today. Very much into your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button. Tells the YouTube gods this is a good video. That is like you should see it as well. And help grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.